Hello everyone, Rob here. First off, thanks for stopping by. I wanted to use this video to expand a bit on my intro video. If you haven't seen it, no worries. I'll be going over everything here so you won't really be missing anything. I also want to say up front that I don't really have everything figured out. This channel is just me documenting things as I go. Hopefully some of the things I learn along the way will help you. Hopefully some of the things I've already learned will also help you, and hopefully I can learn some things from you guys as well. If I'm heading towards a cliff, please let me know. Constructive criticism is always much appreciated. So to get started, as I mentioned before, I'm prior military, Air Force. I joined pretty much right after high school, did my 6 years, and then got out. I served in a few different places as a cyber transport specialist, working on network infrastructure. When the pandemic hit, I got heavily into investing and day trading. Having all the extra money from the military, I didn't really have any debts and didn't do much as far as spending. I've always been a pretty frugal person, so it was nice to be able to use that extra income. I was fortunate enough to have roughly $1,000 a month that I could consistently invest, putting in roughly $250 a week. You can kind of see where I put a large lump sum in, and this is just over the course of my military career, continuing to throw money in. Honestly, I leaned really heavily into day trading at first, the whole get rich quick mindset. That's not to say day trading is a scam. I know people can make money doing it. It's just not profitable for most people, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people get into it hoping to turn pennies into millions overnight. I learned quite a bit from it, but it definitely left me on the wrong side of making money. I learned pretty quickly that the saying most day traders fail definitely proved true for me. Looking back, I'm actually glad it did happen. Losing money early forced me to stop chasing shortcuts and start thinking more long term. I don't think I'd have the portfolio or the mindset I have today if I hadn't learned those lessons the hard way. Over time, I started leaning more heavily into long term investing instead. The structure of my portfolio has changed quite a bit since COVID. I've gone through phases of individual stocks, ETFs, focusing on growth, focusing on dividends, and a blend of both. But one thing that stayed consistent was continuing to put money in and dollar cost averaging. When I left the military, I used some of those gains to pay off my car. Actually, that's this big dip right here. I made quite a bit from my growth portfolio, took that out, and paid off the car, which was really the only debt I had at the time. At the time, it felt a little strange selling investments that were doing well, but looking back, having no car payment gave me a lot more flexibility later on. It's one of those decisions I'm pretty glad that I made. The only other debt I really have is credit cards, and honestly, I only use them for the cash back. If the money isn't sitting in my checking account already, then I'm not putting it on a credit card. I don't mess around with paying interest. So yeah, I paid off the car and the rest stayed invested. As you can see, the money from the military and budgeting that money carefully is ultimately what built the portfolio you see today. This is kind of what it looks like now. Obviously, I can't invest as much as I did before. I have other responsibilities and obligations to take care of. Right now, I'm mainly focused on dividend paying stocks. At the current time, they're paying about $700 a year in dividends, and I'd say they're doing decently well. This portfolio here started back in October. I put a lump sum in, steadily kept putting money in along with some growth, then had some tax stuff from my Airbnb, got a lump sum back, invested it, and just continued dollar cost averaging. And just to clarify about this portfolio starting in October, I did move my funds to a different platform to try it out and ultimately moved it back. So the portfolio you see is still the same one I've been building over the past few years. During my time in the military, I developed a handful of health conditions, which left me, after leaving the military, receiving 100% disability. Thankfully, paying off my car and keeping my debt low left me in a decent financial position. Obviously, it also helps to have the disability income. After the military, I got my real estate license and did some realtor work for a couple of years when I ran into some larger hiccups that I won't go deeply into here, but they made it difficult for me to work and get around normally. That forced me to shift my priorities a bit and really rethink the way I needed to handle my finances. I ended up taking a portion of my portfolio in savings and went house shopping. I wasn't sure whether I wanted a long-term rental or an Airbnb yet. It just kind of depended on the area and which was going to make more money. Honestly, buying the house is probably the biggest financial decision I'd ever made up until the point. Up until then, almost everything I'd done financially was inside a brokerage account. Buying a property felt like a completely different level of commitment. There were definitely a few moments where I wondered if I was making the right decision, but looking back now, I'm pretty glad I took the chance. Around March of last year is when I was able to do that. The little dip you see here is for closing costs and things of that nature. The Airbnb itself has been running for about 7 or 8 months now. We officially started in November, but I bought it back here. I actually lived in it while converting it, so it took several months before I got it up and running. The health issues obviously slowed things down a bit, but we've been operating for about 7 or 8 months now. The first few weeks were honestly slower than I'd hoped, but looking back, that was completely expected. A brand new Airbnb with no reviews has to earn people's trust before bookings really start picking up. February is when we got a nice jump in income, and as much as I'd love to say these large bars are straight profit, the reality is the world doesn't work that way, as much as I wish it did. Between the upkeep, supplies, and cleaning costs, these 3 months are really the only ones that have been profitable so far. Obviously, we're living in some crazy times, so we've seen a bit of a downtrend starting around May because people aren't as willing to spend money. We currently have a longer stay that makes this chart a little misleading. Airbnb counts the income when it's booked, so it's showing the income in June, even though most of that stay is actually in July. June isn't actually popping off like this. I really wish it was, but we'll get a much better picture once July is over. From the Airbnb, I've learned quite a few different things. There are definitely plenty of things I would do differently, but for the most part, I'd say it's been a good experience. Going forward, this channel is going to be me sharing everything you've seen so far. The wins, the mistakes, portfolio updates, Airbnb updates, financial decisions, lessons learned, and whatever else comes along the way. Once again, I appreciate everyone stopping by. If you're interested in seeing where all this goes, I'd appreciate you subscribing and following along. Since this channel is all about documenting the journey, if there's ever something you're curious about, whether it's budgeting, investing, Airbnb, or something completely different, let me know down below. Chances are, if you're wondering about it, someone else is too, and it might make for a great future video. So thanks, and until next time.